Start recording. There we go. We're recording. So, welcome everybody. I'm sorry I'm not in video today. It's New Hampshire school vacation and we're driving around. And so I'm going to be in the background, but you're in really good hands with Bill Becker. I'm super excited to welcome him to the Rebels. This is not his first Rebels call, but his first Rebels presentation. We have officially HR rebooted, and AI Certs have signed a partnership agreement to offer AI training throughout our platforms. So it's a super exciting partnership, and this call with the Rebels, I think, is a big part of that, where we're going to talk about the importance of training in this age of AI and the impact of that. And we've got some really great people in the audience too, Bill, that can help foster the conversation. So
Awesome.
I'm going to turn it over to Bill and let you take it from there.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate the chance to chat with everyone today. This is a unique time. Sometimes I start these webinars off and go, AI, AI, AI. Are you guys tired of it yet? You can't go 5 minutes and not hear those two letters. But it is a unique opportunity. I've talked to different HR organizations and entities, and I know there's all kinds of noise out there, and there's a big spotlight on you. And what I'm going to talk about today is hopefully be helpful. And I know there's a way that you can end up being a hero out of this. So some of the things we're going to talk about, I have these slides because they're kind of expected, but most of this is just me having a conversation. But my background is I've written and spoke about careers for years. And I see a lot of things come and go. One of the things I've learned about is that if you're unemployed or underemployed, it affects how you feel about yourself, how you think others look at you, right or wrong. And because you think about it, we spend, more waking hours with our job than we do with family. So there's so much anxiety out there with this AI thing, and there is a path to, curb that anxiety and help your workforce, help your leadership, and like I said, in the end, to make you guys a hero. And really, and it's not just AI certs; it's AI certs and HR rebooted. And Michelle referenced that we just signed a partnership agreement. We started talking back, I think, back in October. And one of the things I was very excited about and wanted so desperately for HR Rebooted to become a partner is I mentioned, I do webinars, every week, all week long. A lot of HR organizations, sometimes there's 12 people. There's one where it's 85,000 people, and then partner webinars and things. And there's just all this like, what's going on? How, what are we going to do about this? And so, you know, I think everyone understands. I hope, if not, this will be some, news that there's a lot the noise out there of all these layoffs. Amazon 16,000 people, UPS 30,000 people. The layoffs are real, unfortunately, but the reasonings are not. And if you visit my LinkedIn profile, you'll see, I have a lot to say about layoffs each week. But AI is more likely to come for your tasks than coming for your jobs. It cannot do, full, it can't wipe out cities wide's worth of people. But when I do these webinars, and it's talking about, upskilling and training, and, always in the chats, like, Bill, we get it. Training is going to be a big component. And, HR usually leads that, right? So, but the other stuff, acceptable use policy, governance, those are the reasons I was so excited to partner with HR Rebooted. So it's like just the perfect partnership. So one of the things too that I talk about, I have a screen shot up there. You can read it, or if you're watching the recording. But think about this: if everyone adopts AI, where's the competitive advantage? Guess what? It's the H in HR. that's the thing that, I hope you guys always remember is, you know, if you help your employees become AI ready, you show that your executives, what's going on, how they can get AI ready, then, the competitive advantage is still back to the humans, right? The people that you have, the institutional knowledge and the years of experience using AI to a competitive advantage. So obviously AI is doing stuff, right? It's not wiping out tons of jobs, but it is, affecting jobs. So the good part is the automation of repetitive tasks. And this is a good thing because if you can free up 2, 3, 4 hours a week of not having to do mundane stuff, again, I love to use the word, your institutional knowledge, your years of experience. You can help figure out new sources of revenue. You can find ways of doing something more productive, maybe ways to save money. The cool stuff that, as opposed to just constantly doing reports or whatever. And then, of course, there is going to be evolution in jobs. It's happened since, the dawn of time. Jobs are going to change. There's going to be hybrid jobs. So that's the reason for the upskilling. And then, of course, there's going to be new job creation, just like there's new jobs before AI that were being created long before we started talking about those two letters. So let's talk about, real quick. I think everyone gets this. What's going to get displaced, replaced? The data entry, the customer support. If you go to a website now, it's going to at some point going to pop up a chat box that at first is just going to be an agent that's going to answer, frequently asked questions, but at some point you can click and get through a live human. Data entry and scheduling and all the, some of the basic bookkeeping stuff that's already, even before we started talking about AI, that was happening. I mean, manufacturing, that's again, before we started talking about AI, robotics were coming on, and different things like that. And I think the one that everyone understands is, the grocery store self-checkout. But guess what? You can actually still have a human being check out your groceries. So things are going to evolve. Jobs are going to go away. It's not going to be overnight, though. So some of the stuff that's getting created, and I mentioned the word hybrid. That's the big thing, takeaway is people who know how to take what AI has given you, the data, and how to, one, to read that, but just as important, if not more important, is how to report that back to decision makers, right? So that's where the big thing's going to be. And that's kind of, I think the first two bullet points here are kind of the same, right? A business strategist is going to take this information, report it back, and then come up with a plan on how we're going to deal with this information long term. There's a couple other types of job roles that are being created there. And then transform. I mean, we're talking to HR people, right? HR is the focal point of all this. That's why I talk to so many HR organizations. So you all have a special type of anxiety out there, right? Because your workforce has anxiety. Hey, is this AI going to replace my job? Am I going to train my replacement? So you have all this. Part of it when you can talk to your workforce and say, look, here's what's really going on. You can help alleviate that anxiety. Above you, you got leadership that are definitely freaking out. Like, we know we got to do something with this AI stuff. What are we going to do? And all this comes down to, and this is really the basics of, business to business sales. And in this case, you're in sales because you're selling your message below and above you. So look at it this way. When you go out and buy, you make the wrong decision on buying a TV, you're out a few $100, maybe a couple $1,000. If you make the wrong decision for your company, it could cost you your job. So, I always say people don't buy bells and whistles and features and benefits. They're buying peace of mind that what they're doing, what they, are committing their company to is the right decision. And when you talk about, this partnership that we have with HR Rebooted, that you have the unique training, that's role specific training that we'll talk about in a little bit. And then, but combine it with the governance and acceptable use policy and all the things that Michelle and her team have, that alleviates a lot of fear that companies are making the wrong decision. Because think about this, just from the training aspect. When I talk to a traditional IT training company, it's like, hey, remember when you guys did 5-day SQL classes and made bank? They go, oh, yeah, the good old days. Virtually, maybe 2% of the world has even heard of SQL. The entire world knows about AI, and it's on their mind, whether they want it or not. So everyone's thinking about it. What are we going to do? We can't mess this up. That's what I talk about. There's this big light on everybody. You have the workforce anxiety, you have the people above you, and it's all pointed at HR, right? I mean, you have people like Michelle and us to come and help put together custom programs. That's going to alleviate a lot of fear that there's going to be mistakes, because you know what? In those days, you might have one or two people get that SQL training. In the case of AI, the entire workforce needs to get AI ready, right? At the very least, just basic AI literacy. I can make a good case that in 2026, that everyone should know how to write good prompts, no longer a nice to have career skill. And then you have the role specific courses. Then you have the executive level courses. So, the training part of it is not necessarily an insignificant investment. So organizations want to know that they're making the right decision. And then when it's coupled with, the governance and acceptable use policies and things like that, it's like lights start clicking and go, this makes sense. We feel really good about, partnering with these two organizations. And again, up there on the slide, just how the different ways that AI is being adopted. We're talking specifically, today about HR, but just to give you an idea of what's going on out there. And I encourage all of you. I'm sure you're all looking at use cases, case studies, how other organization HR is implementing and adopting and adapting AI. But I encourage you to look outside your industry, because what works over here in healthcare, you might be able to say, oh, you know what, this is how we would do it in manufacturing. It just makes a lot of sense to look at, outside your industry on what's going on. So the big thing, about, the training is the skill gap. Teams, entire organizations are going to need to be upskilled. And they need so in a way to, they're not going to feel like, hey, I'm just training my replacement. They want to have, learn how to use these tools, learn how AI is being used in their industry. And that's kind of the cool thing about, AI certs. I came out of retirement actually for this a little over a year ago, because of the unique proposition that AI certs courses do have. So one of the things that is like, okay, what's really going on here? So we know everyone needs to get trained. And again, it's not an insignificant investment, right? So how do we know that this investment is going to pay off? Well, the first thing is, did your folks get certified? And so let's talk about the, what AI certs courses do. And you get a chance to see, the UI here in a minute. But I say our courses do not train on how to use AI. It's how does AI impact specific job roles with a certification. We actually consider ourselves a certification org that provides training through our partners, like HR Rebooted. I know somebody is off mute and we can hear your conversation. So if you can mute, that would be awesome. Thanks. But think about this. You can go learn whatever you want for free on the internet, right? So what would you do if you want to go out and teach yourself this AI thing? Again, if you're smart, you're going to go out and you're going to look at case studies in your industry. If you're really smart, you're going to go look at case studies in other industries. Then next you go, all right, I'm going to go look at some job role specific tools, the people that in my same job role are using today. There's a whole bunch of them, right? But you can go in, play around, get your hands dirty. You are legit AI ready. Prove it. That's the beauty of the certification. For yourselves, for your workforce, is did they get certified? And so it's less, how to use specific tools. You do get your hands dirty in these courses, but it's the idea is like, all right, I saw 3 or 4 tools during that, did some practice exercises. I'm going to go spend more time with that tool. And then every course also has an addendum, a list of 10 to 20 other AI specific tools for that job role that we say, hey, you might want to go take a look at these. So it's role specific certification back. That's the difference. No one else in the world offers this type of AI training. So I
Bill,
mentioned
can I
earlier,
interrupt you for one
please
second?
go for it.
So I think there's, to your point earlier, that the jobs aren't going away, the tasks are going away. And I think we in HR have to really think about how we're upskilling and reskilling people and thinking about our workforce. But I think the people that have that strategic thoughtfulness and oversight, like their jobs will be less disrupted. And it's the individuals kind of coming out of school that maybe don't have the experience and the tenure and the things you learn in your organization over time. And so, giving them the foundation in AI is super.
I think you cut out, Michelle, but you're right. That's what I talk about. Just at the very least, everyone in an organization, regardless of their role, needs basic AI literacy. Just basically like, hey, don't put company data, in Chat GPT, simple things like that. You want everyone to understand, those just elementary type things. Because again, AI is affecting everyone, regardless of the role in a company. Then you get into the role specific. So, the case studies are different for HR than they are for marketing. The tools that are in the course that you get to play around with are different for sales than they are finance. But that's the beauty that so that today there's 70-ish courses out there. That we've gone wide and we're starting to go deep. So regardless of the role, there's courses, and again, there's also multiple leadership courses that are out there. I think everybody understands that smart leaders, whether they approved it or not, HR or AI is already in their company. And so that's another thing too, the urgency to get their arms around this to make sure that, safety guardrails are put into place, and then people know, what's right and what's wrong on how to use AI. And that goes back to the spotlight that I talk about. Huge spotlight on everybody to get this done quickly, but being smart and making sure that there's no gaps there. So we'll dive in more to the specific on the courses. So we used to say vendor neutral. Now we say vendor aligned, because what does that mean? Well, Microsoft, AWS, they all have their AI certification courses, but those are on their technology. We're technology agnostic. Again, you get to play around with tools in these courses, but you don't become proficient first in a 1 day or 6 hour e-learning, but you do get to play around, and then it helps you guys like, all right, this is a tool I want to check out for myself or for my team. And if you're only in marketing, you don't care about finance or whatever. That's why the role specific was so smart, is just like, we're going to see, how does this impact my role? And you get access to the courses for a year. And because it's AI, things are going to change, right? So we look at stuff on a quarterly basis, and it's like, all right, hey, and the student gets an email. Bill, we added a new case study to your course. We think you should take a look at. Or we found a cool new tool that people in your job role are using. We put that in your course content. Unlike if you're familiar with, traditional IT certifications where you pay for a course, then you go buy an exam voucher, and maybe you go someplace else to, take your exam. Everything here is self-contained. So the exams are built into the course. These are legit proctored exams. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So I mentioned earlier, we consider ourselves a certification org that provides training through our partners. 75-ish courses today. The idea is 200 or so by the end of the year. Every course has an instructor-led version and an e-learning version. There are 2 exam attempts built into the course. So, and people always ask at some point. So yes, if someone needed a 3rd attempt, you can buy an exam voucher. But all these courses really start with the exam development. So what does that look like? A lot of research, a lot of job task analysis. In the end, boring stuff to us. Our general manager said, Bill, I would make you cry if you sat in one of those meetings. But it creates a legit certification, and from that comes the courses. And so there's 2 really claims to fame for AI certs. The first one is role specific, backed by a certification. And the other one we'll talk about here in a minute, but is just the actual content and how that's delivered. So, again, a slide just talking about, the different elements of the company. For those that companies that you think, oh, you know what, we want to, do some instructor-led training. You can, does not cost anything to become a certified instructor. You get access to the course and the exam for free. And then within, we have a separate portal for trainers. We provide the PowerPoint decks. We provide the lecture notes. And so there's a lot of resources there. Virtually the content's the same for instructor-led and e-learning. We all know that, there's value there to have a live person for a day to deliver the content, share his or her street knowledge. When I ran a training center, we did a lot of SharePoint training, and my instructors did a lot of SharePoint consulting. And so they provided a lot of what I call street smart, especially what not to do, right? A lot of their consulting gigs were fixing other SharePoint mistakes. In fact, they came up with a verb. They go, oh, you've been SharePooed. But people really stand up and take notice. It's like, all right, yeah, we know best use cases and best practices, but you can also learn from other people's mistakes, which is just as valuable. So, that's the value of having, live instructors teaching the class.
Bill, is there a best practice like live instructor led for executives, so it's more hands-on, and then virtual self-paced for everybody else, or vice versa?
Especially in an organization, it's usually going to be a combination, right? There'll be some, targeted live classes, and then everybody else gets, the e-learning. And especially when you look at this, because the way this is set up is there's not just one course, for people. You can make a good argument that everyone needs the basic AI literacy, right? So AI plus for everyone. Everyone needs to know how to write good prompts. So, prompt fundamentals, and then the role specific course. And then for executives, we have AI plus executive. There is a governance course. There's also a RSafe course about security framework that's really good for executives. That one's actually 3 to 4 hours. So what you're seeing up here on the screen, those 75 courses, they're broken into 2 parts. The role specific, 1 day instructor led, 6-8 hours e-learning, or what we call our professional courses. And then we have 5-day courses, instructor led, 40 hours e-learning. Those are typically, those are the technical courses. We do have one that's not technical. We have a new project manager course. So we have a 1-day fundamentals project manager and then a 5-day. So it's either 5 days is technical or mastery. There's no 2, 3, or 4-day courses to confuse everybody. This is just kind of give away that, the role specific ones, 1 day, 6, 8 hours e-learning. And when I said earlier about the content's virtually the same between the instructor led and the e-learning, you take a 1-day class for the next 364 days, you have the exact same content as the e-learning people. And we'll take a look at that here in just a second, what I mean by that. This is a cool slide that just kind of shows how HR, can, put together different packages for employees that, how everything stacks up, the different courses each department might have. And one of the other things too, and this is brand new, that we need to put this in a slide. So we talk about, the e-learning, the instructor led, something that we just started rolling out is called the All Access Pass. And what that is a all you can eat e-learning subscription. So today, and there are minimums, which, you can talk to Michelle and her team about that, but it's designed for, companies, for enterprises. And the idea is you get access to everything. Today it's 75 courses, and as we add more courses, they would get that. No one's going to go through all that, right? Even if they have the best intentions. But what will happen, what has happened is, all right, I'm going to go in, I'm going to take these 2 courses completion, I'm going to get certified. But you know what? There were 2 modules in this course over here that looked really interesting, and I'm going to do those. And then there's another module in this course over here that I wanted to do that. So individuals can kind of create their own custom learning path, and managers can do that for their people as well. So the beauty of the All Access Pass, the all you can eat, is HR doesn't have to sit here and go, all right, Bob, there's 6 people on your team, which 3 courses are they going to want? You just give them access to everything and then give them instructions on, what they need to complete, and then they can go on and do, the other ones on their own. Within our platform, HR Rebooted can give organizations their own insight to, how their people are doing. It's like, all right, we know we enrolled 100 people. Has any of them even logged in? Well, you can get access to that. Then you can say, all right, almost everyone's logged in. How far along in the course are they? Who's passed the exam? So that's very good information that, your leadership is going to want, and that's available through the platform. So kind of wrapping this up before I show you the cool stuff is that you can make a good case. Everyone needs foundational, basic AI literacy. They need role specific training on how is AI impacting this, my industry, but especially my job role. And then where appropriate, there's cybersecurity, there's development, there's, executive level courses. So our other claim to fame is our UI. We say multimodality. So people like to learn differently, right? So every single exercise and every single course, there's 4 ways to consume that content. You can watch the video. You can read the ebook. If you're like me, I watch the video with the closed captioning on. We also have 2 audio components. We have the traditional audio book, so one voice in your head. And then we have podcasts. Podcasts, unbelievably popular. We also say multi-device, so computer, tablet, phone. People are listening to podcasts on their phone of the lesson while they're working out, walking the dog, doing laundry. Just so incredibly popular. You can literally log in on your phone and do a course, but we also have an app that's been downloaded It's probably close to 800,000 times now. So, especially for organizations where not everyone has a computer, right? So I talked to, one of the largest staffing companies in the world, and, manufacturing is a big part of them. It's like, not all these people have computers. Like, no problem. You can do these courses very easily on your phone. So that's very helpful and very important when you look out there that, multiple ways to do the course, multiple ways to consume the content. And then when you get down to the end, you can immediately click, launch the exam. The proctoring part will come up and you can go through it, or you can wait a week or a month or whatever. Like I said, you have two shots at that. In addition to all that, there's an AI mentor in each course. So think of that as like a homework assistant, it's just there. It's all trained on the content, and it's a way for students to, interact and ask questions. For instructors, there's also an AI mentor for every course for trainers. So as they're prepping for a course, that's an additional resource for them. So that's kind of the high level overview that I am just so excited about this partnership. It's been a long time. I knew it was worth the effort to, keep harassing Michelle and Kelly, because it's just, again, training is such a huge part of AI adoption. But as the adapting it, that's where all the other stuff comes in that HR Rebooted has. And you just, not since peanut butter and jelly have you seen a better combination. So I will stop there and see if there might be any questions.
I love that. I'm probably gonna lose Chin before I fall off again. We have a tool that we are launching next week. I'm happy to do a soft launch. It's called My Career Navigator, and it actually talks about some of that disruption and helps people navigate how their role will be disrupted because of AI, and then how do they become more AI resilient. But I'd love to hear from the group too. How are they handling? And I'll put the link for that in the chat so you guys can play with it. It's a free tool, so please go play with it
Very
and
cool
share it.
tool.
But and we have AI certs integrated into that. But I would love to hear from the group, and maybe we can open it to conversation around how people are thinking about upskilling and reskilling. What are the concerns? What are they actually doing in the organizations today? And how would learning like this be beneficial?
Hey, Michelle, I'll hop in quickly. It's not necessarily directly my organization, but a team that we work with. And I can tell you just firsthand, they happen to be a PR agency, so they're very hands-on with writing. And initially, they were very, very allergic to any AI elements. I mean, our platform that we work with them, on regarding performance management, they were asking us to sort of remove all elements of AI in the system initially, and then after over the course of the past year, it becoming much more ubiquitous and people having their hands on it and using it otherwise, they've gone total 180 enterprise client with OpenAI, using it left, right, and center. But when it comes to training of the team, at least from my understanding of dealing with some of their HR people, the training is very limited. It's been sort of, here's a tool, here's what we think you should use it for, have at it. We have these guardrails in place because it's sort of enterprise setup to make sure that no one goes off in the wrong direction, but they haven't really put as much effort into the training to make sure people are using it as effectively as possible. So just from my very limited experience of one customer that we work with who's relatively large, I can see that there's certainly a gap in follow through, which means, you're investing all this time and money in these tools that may be getting you outcomes, but they're certainly not as good or beneficial as they could be.
That happens a lot. I mean, people, leaders will say, all right, everyone got a Copilot subscription. We're done with the AI training.
Yeah, I was actually hoping that you would have some experience
I don't think we
there.
can hear you, Michelle. I'm sorry. It's just,
A little funky. Yeah, a little funky on the audio.
Yes, sorry, it's
all right, that's better. There you go. I just jinxed you.
yeah, I was just echoing what you were saying, Bill, is that the when you roll out AI without training, it's kind of like playing tennis without a net, right? So how it just affects your adoption rate because people don't know what's expected of them. I don't know how
I think we lost her again. Are there any other questions out there that, I mean, someone could put in the chat and then someone, we're going to get Michelle back. Well, for those that were able to make it live today, I appreciate your time. I hope you found this insightful. Any questions, please reach out to Michelle. There's some cool things that are available for you to test drive, these courses. And also, yeah, that my career navigator is very cool because it's, you figure out how this is going to affect your job role, and then it has some great, suggestions on, how to make sure that it doesn't, affect it negatively. So that was one of the cool things I knew that was coming, that if we were able to get this partnership put together. There's nothing
Bill,
else. Go ahead.
I had a question. Does
Please.
your platform help with have courses on agent building or automation development? Is that
We
something
do. AI
you
plus
do?
agent.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, gotcha. Copy that. Okay, so that's going to be helpful. I'm sorry I jumped in towards the middle, but
No, no,
largely what
no.
I got is your platform provides AI training or how to use AI. Did I capture that accurately?
No, it's more that how does AI impact specific job roles?
I see.
So
I see.
Um, and then, it's a combination of case studies, be industry, and then job role specific tools. You get your hands dirty. You do not become proficient during that training. With the idea is you play around 3 or 4 tools, helps you decide, all right, maybe this one is one I'm going to go and, spend some more time with. But to your specific question, there is a course called AI Plus Agent about building agents. Because the idea is that you want to, customize to your job role, or for your team, your own agent.
Copy that. Copy that. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate
Of
that.
course. Well, I know you guys know how to reach out. So if you're like me and 10 minutes later go, I wanted to ask this, just, let Michelle know, and we will get back to you. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week.